What's going on? Brand new digs, new place that I just moved into. It doesn't look very fancy. I'm gonna maybe deck it out in the future, but yeah, so that's kind of the reason that I've been a little bit inactive on YouTube lately. When I say inactive, that just means that I failed to post one day on my daily posting. But regardless, what I'm trying to do on this channel is keep each video higher quality. I can edit it out a bit more. So I'm not going to be posting as often anyway, but the quality is going to be higher than ever. That's the plan. Anyhow, what I wanted to share with you today is something I call broetry. It's a term that I'm pretty sure I came up with, but I've always liked poetry. One of the things that really drew me to Nietzsche is his poetry. Now, in terms of traditional poetry, he's actually pretty bad. At the very end of Beyond Good and Evil, he has all these poems, which I don't know, maybe because it's going from German to English, they just sound awkward. However, undoubtedly, he is one of the best, if not the best, prose poets of all time. And prose poetry is basically just, it's like poetry without trying to fit into a certain structure. The most obvious thing being like rhyming, right? But you still have all like the metaphors and all the stuff that people are drawn to with poetry. So I'm kind of going to, one of the things I'm trying to do on this channel now is dip a little bit more into my creative side, rather than just having a lot of my videos where it's kind of propositional, where I say, okay, well, here's a certain problem. Here's what somebody said about this problem. Here's what I think the solution is. Or just asking, dangerous questions about culture, humanity, the human condition. I think one format that I really haven't tried that I'm drawn to is sort of like that prose poetry. I'm not necessarily going to try to be like Nietzsche, because that'll be a tall order. But yeah, just to not put pressure on myself, I'm going to call it broetry. It's poetry for the bros, Poetry, typically, that's like a very feminine thing. Only girls like it, but when I write poems, I want it to be something relating to men, right? Something that I can relate to, which is why I even wrote it in the first place. And typically when I write these, I'm not in a very good headspace, which is why I write it down. But I'm going to share with you one today, all right? And part of my plan is to actually make these into like short form content. And I just want to share a little bit here today, okay? So this one is called Addicted to the Struggle. I don't deserve to be happy. That's a lie. I don't want to be happy, except for the times where I'm unhappy, which are frequent. Constantly torn between being happy and guilty or productive and guilt-free. Why do I feel guilty when I'm not excelling at something? Is this the best version of myself pushing my current self to finally become him? Or is it a lie that was planted in my head against my will from a young age? Something so deeply ingrained in me that it took me 30 years of life on this earth to even have the idea occur to me to question it. I love the struggle of striving for excellence, but does excellence love me back? Is she alluring to me only because I've become dependent on her validation, without which I'm forced to feel this constant pit of guilt? Am I attracted to her because she seems like the only one who can alleviate me from this feeling? If so, is this a healthy or toxic relationship? If a friend of mine was going through this with their significant other, what would I advise them to do? And whatever that advice may be, why am I afraid to even consider following that advice myself? That's it. That's all I got so far. Now, I apologize if it was cringy, but it's coming from the heart, Good old broetry. I'm coining the term right here. I think with men especially, and especially if you were raised in the West, there's this emphasis on productivity, hyper-productivity. If you watch this channel, you probably fit into that category. You probably are kind of a free-minded, free-spirited individual. A lot of you might have aspirations to be an entrepreneur or creative, and you kind of have this driving force of like, oh, if I'm not progressing, if I'm not on my grind, there's something wrong with me. I'm a piece of shit if I don't do that. I'm just lazy. And I think a lot of us don't really even question that. They don't really even question whether that's a legitimate thing to think about or not. Or if it's just an idea that's been planted in your mind by somebody else against your will. You know, this is something that I was able to open my eyes to once I was exposed to the different cultures and traveling around. I live in Vietnam, so clearly the most obvious answer is that I have a different perspective speaking to Asian people, or Southeast Asians more specifically, Vietnam more specifically. But it's not just them, it's other travelers that I meet, Europeans, people from South America, a few people from Africa. A lot of them don't have that same perspective of just like work till you die. If you're not excelling at something, if you're not achieving something, you suck. A lot of them actually truly know the meaning of work-life balance. And for me, being half American and half Japanese, literally the two most workaholic cultures that there are, that's all I know. All I know is just working hard all the time and not even questioning and just doing it. And anytime I just try to enjoy life a little bit, even if things are going well for me in my professional life, I feel guilty. I feel guilty and weird. And then at that point, it just kind of makes you question, like, well, what's the point of me doing all this work if that's my entire life? Even if I love it, if I can't enjoy the things that it's the fruits of my labor, right? And so anyway, I think that's just a struggle that men especially will always have, because we have this pressure, we feel this pressure to provide, we feel this pressure to achieve. We feel like society and women judge us and judge our worth based off of that. Us guys judge other guys based off of that. I mean, what's one of the worst insults that you can throw at a guy is to say like, oh, you're broke, you're a loser, you're not gonna amount to nothing. If somebody says that to a girl, especially an attractive girl in her 20s, they'll be like, what are you talking about? Like, that would be less of an insult than to call her ugly. To call her ugly would be more of an insult than what we just talked about, right? Of saying that they won't amount to nothing. And so I think it's, if I feel this way, I feel like a lot of other people probably feel that way too. So yeah, just a little bit of my attempt at poetry. I hope it wasn't too cringe. I'm a pretty self-critical person, so maybe it was all right, and I'm just being self-critical, whatever. Both a strength and a weakness. But that's broetry for you. Anyway, this is my new place, and I just want to throw out kind of a random video like this today. Just throw it out there, see how people like it, see how I like filming it. And the little broem, whatever you want to call it, poem broem, I'm gonna make into a short form thing, and I think that'll probably bring some more people into this channel, because short form content, whether you like it or not, that's what social media companies are really going for nowadays. And so I put a poll out the other day asking what y'all would think about me renaming this channel Lost in the Labyrinth, because I think, one, it sounds cooler. Two, I think it's more representative of what this channel actually represents. I'm not trying to sit here and act like I'm a guru that knows everything, but I do believe that I have had a lot of life experiences. I have a gift for paying attention and maybe looking at things or being able to break it down into some kind of story format for it to be more understandable, more exciting. Because a lot of philosophers, they're just way too abstract with stuff and they get kind of boring. It's part of the reason I'm drawn to Nietzsche, because he's the complete opposite of that. And I think Lost in the Labyrinth sounds better because it's more reflective of how so many of us feel in the modern day, even if we've developed ourselves into strong people. We've achieved a 225 bench, as the meme goes. We might have even seen some financial success in our lives, but there's always just something missing. It feels like you're still lost in this labyrinth. Like you feel like you've made progress, but you still feel like you haven't gotten figured out. And, I feel that same way too, a lot of the times. And so I want the things I talk about on this channel to be both a personal diary or journal, I guess, of my own life, as well as the things that I'm thinking about on that life journey that hopefully you will also relate to, and you can join me on that journey. I have some solutions based off of certain things. So one thing I know or I believe to be true, is that shadow work is, from a practical action standpoint, that's going to be one of the things that really helps you become a better, stronger, more charismatic, more confident individual. But other than that, I don't really have like specific answers to a bunch of different stuff. I don't think anybody does either. Anybody that does is probably just lying to you and just trying to manipulate you, trying to rile up the herd to gain more power. And I just don't, there's a temptation to be a guru, man, because gurus can make a lot of money. They can live really well if they're able to sucker a few people. And I really just don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I've already basically ruined my option of doing that by being real with you about why gurus exist. And I think a lot of them actually like start to believe in their own bullshit too. So that makes it easy, and so that they can have a clear conscience of what they talk about. You're not going to get that here. So yeah, I'm highly considering renaming this Lost in the Labyrinth. I'm going to have a call with like my group coaching clients and my mastermind clients tomorrow and kind of see what they think. Based off of the audience so far, off of the poll, a lot of people said that it's about 50-50. But more people actually said that they think that I should change it. So based off what these guys say, I'll kind of think about it, meditate about it, and then maybe I'll change it. But we'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. And yeah, I'll see you in this video. Bye.